Hey there, I'm James, and I'm in the Corrective Exercise section of Shin Wellness. And in a nutshell, how I'll describe corrective exercise is that it's a little bit different than fitness, right? Fitness is you show up with whatever muscle activation patterns you have, and you just sort of do them, we have fun, and we get a workout. Corrective exercise is changing those muscle activation patterns. So I often say that your brain sends signal to your muscles, and inevitably what we find with people is that half of those muscles, or some of them, are overactive, while others are underactive. And so what we're going to be doing with your corrective exercise program is balancing you out. And how you do that is by activating the right muscles at the right time. The core breathing belly pump is basically two cues, let's say. Inhale, fill belly and ribs, and exhale and allow your corset, your natural torso, to just come back together. And so that's it. Inhale, fill belly and ribs. Exhale, allow your corset to come back together. This is such a foundational exercise. It's going to be something that you're basically doing through just about, well, all day long, as well as through each exercise that you do. Again, it's inhale, fill belly and ribs. Exhale, allow your corset to come back together. It's totally okay to fill your chest at the end of the big inhale. It just shouldn't be very chest or shoulder dominant. Number 2. So this second exercise is laying on the foam roller. And as will commonly be the case, you'll be using your core breathing, so start there. And then you're going to now do core breathing with an alternating leg lift. And that's it. So how I often cue it is breathe to lift the leg, and then breathe to lower the leg. And then breathe to lift the other leg, and then breathe to lower that one. And then continue and slow it down. And you'll also notice don't lift the leg very high. And then at some point, if you want an extra balance challenge, core challenge, you bring your hands off the floor. And what you'll notice is that it's much more challenging to stabilize that. Continue with the core breathing. And what your major objective is here is to coordinate core breathing to movement, essentially to pattern as though your core breathing is going to be working for you as you walk down the street or go for a run in the same way. So we're just doing it a little bit of the foam roller format. And the reason why I put you on the foam roller actually is because it's awesome for gravity to be sort of elongating your shoulders and your chest and just letting your system rest there in that position. This exercise is a floor glute bridge. And so you just lay on your back, you lift your hips up, and this is really important now. I'm going to start talking about where you should feel it. Where should you feel this one? It should be in your glutes, your butt muscles. You should not feel it in your lower back. And we don't really want to feel it in your knees, your hamstrings, or your quadriceps, your other leg muscles. We want to try to get the burn, the tiredness, the tension. We want to get it in your glutes because that's the practice that you're undertaking here. Fourth exercise, you're laying on your back and we're going to be doing pelvic tilting. Specifically, I'm going to call it pelvic tucking. So how this works at first is please start with core breathing as usual. And then once you have your core breathing, go ahead and start tucking your pelvis, which means that your tail will tuck under. Another way to think of it is here on the ground that your lower back may flatten against the floor. And then you just repeat that. And because the emphasis is on tucking your pelvis as opposed to arching for right now, then let that be your emphasis. Go ahead and it doesn't matter if you inhale or exhale, it just matters right now. It just matters that you are combining your breathing with your tuck. And so you might tuck and hold 2, 3, and then relax. And then tuck and hold 2, 3, and then relax. And then as the exercise goes on, as you improve with it, you can start to straighten your legs out here. Exercise number 5. This exercise is the quadruped or hands and knees position. And from this position, as so often is the case, you're going to start with your core breathing. So take a look and make sure that you're inhaling, filling belly and ribs, exhaling, and allowing your corset to get smaller. This is a wonderful place to start practicing that exhale a little bit more now that you've gotten the inhale down. So that means you can inhale 2, 3, 4, and then you can also exhale, 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 exhale. As you continue your core breathing, You can then add some variety to it by lifting in your legs. So the same thing as before, just barely lift a leg up off the ground and then breathe lower. You want to keep breathing and barely lifting your legs off the ground, alternating back and forth. And then when the time is right for you, keep breathing and use the core breathing to alternate lifting your arms off the floor now. And then when the time is right, you can try continuing core breathing and lifting opposite limbs. So one arm and then the opposite leg. Exercise number 6 is also in the hands and knees quadruped position. Start with your core breathing, but this time we're going to do a gentle rotation. And so you just put a hand, it doesn't really matter where you put the hand, but for reference right now, we're going to put the hand on your forehead. You can also put it on your chest or something that's comfortable for you. But the real key here is that you're going to gently rotate your body with your breathing, and then use your breathing to come back down. And then that's it. You're just practicing using your core breathing. Where you want to feel this here is in your obliques. So in your abdominal muscles as much as you can. It is totally normal and fine to feel it in your shoulder blade area or the back of your shoulder, your rear deltoid as well. But please try not to feel it in your lower back and don't feel it in your neck. Exercise number 7. This exercise is the prone cobra hold. Go ahead and lay down on your tummy. And then when you lift up, you're trying to put the tension or the muscle activation into your shoulder blades. This is really important. You don't want to put it in your lower back. You don't want to practice using that muscle right now. So allow yourself to feel it in your shoulder blades and in the area right behind your actual shoulder, your deltoid. And then also it's okay to feel it down your arm a little bit if it's like the muscle like your tricep. Where you don't want to feel it is your neck and your lower back. And what you can see I'm doing here in this video is I'm gently repeating the exercise. So I'm externally rotating my shoulders, which means I'm bringing my shoulder blades together and turning my thumbs up a bit. And then I'm relaxing down. And then I'm bringing them up a bit and relaxing down. I'm just repeating that along with breathing, and make sure that you continue your core breathing doing it. This exercise is the kneeling hip flexor stretch. So the major intention here is to feel a stretch down the front of your leg, down the front of your quad, the front of your hip flexor. And so what you see that I've done here is that my left knee is down and my right foot is forward. And so I'm going to feel this stretch in the front of my left leg. Now what I've done here, the first thing is I'm core breathing, right? Now, the position that you see me in is that my wrists have been placed over my knee. And the reason why I'm doing that is to make sure that I don't lean forward and backward. So it's sort of fixing you upright there while you tuck your pelvis. And what you'll notice is that every time you tuck your pelvis, you emphasize or lengthen that stretch. And so continue and just use your breathing to lengthen the stretch and feel more of a stretch. And repeat that several times. Now, another version of this exercise, as you can see me going onto here, is to rotate my right shoulder back. Now, the idea here is that your left glute is pulling the right shoulder to gently rotate open. So if you feel activation in your left glute, wonderful. And if you feel activation in your obliques, your abdominals, wonderful. If you feel like it's in your back, you want to steer off of that. You want to try to avoid feeling it in your lower back. You don't want your lower back to move you here. This exercise is a hamstring stretch. What you see me doing here is that my feet are shoulder width apart and my one set of toes is about even with the other heel. And then as I'm bent forward here, what you see me doing is I'm gently moving my hips up and down just a little bit. Now, of course, this is with your core breathing. You're going to feel this in your front leg, in the hamstring, so the back of your front leg. And you don't have to move. At first, actually, you should just be still and hang out and focus on your core breathing. The movement is just for changing it up. It's more of an active stretch. So depending on what we've suggested for you at Shin, you can make that decision. This is a hamstring stretch. Many of you will recognize it. Laying on your back, you lift your leg into position. But what we're gonna do here, and by the way, you can do this with a towel or a band or something in case your flexibility doesn't allow you to be comfortable with your hands wrapped behind your leg. But what you see I've done here is I'm just holding my leg up in this position and I feel a hamstring stretch. But what I'm doing is a myofascial nerve stretch as well. You can see that happen as I pull the toes and basically the back of my foot as I pull it down toward me. And then I relax, and then I pull the foot down, and then I relax, and then I just pull the foot down and then relax. This is called nerve flossing, and it helps to relax as I said, the myofascia as well as the nerves. All right, so this is a stretch for our hip rotators. And you can see I'm in what is called a hip 90-90 position. Now, the front leg, as you can see what I'm doing here, is I'm gently just rocking back and forth, allowing the hip of my front leg to feel a stretch. Just gentle, moving with my breathing and letting it feel great. As a general rule, what I'd encourage you to do here is to kind of move from the legs or the hips as opposed to move from your spine. This is actually pretty important for many of you because we want to teach you to have movement from your hips as opposed to overdoing the movement from the spine. And so just consider that. As you move, is it pulling from your hips or are you pulling from your spine? And then, once you've done the front leg, you can turn to the back leg, and now it becomes internal rotation, whereas the front leg was external rotation. Not that that's super important for you, but if that's important for your routine, if you need one versus the other, you can know which one you're doing. So the back leg now is the internal rotation, and it's the same thing. You can see me gently rocking left and then right just a little bit. I'm trying to increase the range of motion in the hip rotators there by doing what? By using the activation of my leg muscles to just gently move me to one side and back. And notice I said again, leg muscles, not spine muscles as much. We're really emphasizing on trying to get movement through the legs here, the hips specifically, the hip rotators.